keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
How's it going? Welcome to the Anti-Media Radio, once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.tv. Thank you guys for tuning in, and welcome to the show. We got a bunch of stuff to go over tonight. Make sure you bookmark this site that you're on, that you're listening to us, and tune back in Monday through Friday, 5 days a week at the same time on the same site. You can catch our shows, and you can also find our show archives on the left-hand side of the website or on YouTube, UCY TV on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel as well, so you can get all the other videos that come out from the other awesome hosts that are on UCY Radio. But we got a bunch of stuff to go over tonight. There's been so much news since we had our last show on Wednesday. And I know DB Schwartz is on the line, our longtime co-host. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to hear from PM, and hopefully it'll start spurring a movement to really get organized so these jackasses in the bureaucracy can't pull this kind of crap.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so, you bring up a great point. We're going to jump into this later once PM or Patty Beers calls in. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard of her. She's the pretty famous live streamer from Los Angeles. She's also part of the Anti-Media team. And I'm sure everybody remembers also the Kelly Thomas brutal beating by the police. And he was literally beat to death by the Fullerton Police Department. And the two cops that beat him up, and this stuff, keep in mind, this is all on video too. So there is proof of what went down. And the two cops that committed this crime were not indicted. They weren't charged. So there were some huge protests that went on in Fullerton, and unfortunately, PM was arrested at the protests, and even though she's a journalist and she was recording, live streaming, she was arrested, and she may face up to 6 months in jail, literally for journalism. And so she's going to be on the show a little bit later. You guys may have seen the article today on the Anti-Media, so you may already know a little bit of the background info, but we're going to go pretty in-depth on the situation. This, to us, it hits us at home. First of all, since we're a media organization and you know, we're all about free speech and free information and bringing out all these ideas and helping people know their rights and all that stuff. For one of the people on our own team to be hit like this, it's pretty, you know, it's kind of scary, man, to be honest, because it just goes to show that this police state is very personal, man, and sooner or later it'll affect every one of us. So that's why it's this is something I think that is going to become a bigger story as we go on, and it's part of this overall war on freedom that we see going on in the digital world. I mean, we didn't really mention it that much because I didn't think it was that huge of a story, but it really is. The guy from the Silk Road was charged with all of the crimes. He was found guilty on all counts or whatever, and and then you got Jeremy Hammond, which was the guy that hyperlinked to leaked information, and he is now in prison. So this overall war on internet freedom is going on right now, and that's one of the things that Snowden really warned about is this chilling effect that's going to go on if we keep seeing our rights being infringed upon, our freedom of speech, our internet freedom. Then people are going to be too scared to start to continue to speak out, and that's one of the things that we have to really worry about is the chilling effect, and it's not talked about enough.
And there's also a secondary effect, which is that people don't even know that they don't know, and that history is literally being rewritten in front of our eyes. And you can see that happen. I mean, there's things me and you grew up learning about, Nick, that kids now it's totally whitewashed out. And there's things, 30, 40 years ago that in Europe, I mean, I went down to Latin America and met somebody from Belgium, and they said everybody knows that the United States is just a Rothschild's company. That's all you guys are. You still are the same thing. The war, the Revolutionary War that you guys think you won in 1776, you actually lost it back in 1812. They came back and they bombarded you with the Navy and fucking took over the colonies again. And they just never told anyone. They just took the banking system over instead. And there's so much history that's been rewritten that people don't even know who they are anymore, let alone what they're doing right now in the media, which is complete manipulation. Look at Brian Williams. You think he's the only guy? It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's all fake, it's all green screened, and it's all pure propaganda.
So we are joined on the line now by a few callers. I think the one from San Diego is actually a live stream account. But 818, I think we got Manny on the line. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's up, TV? Yeah, I was kind of shocked to be checking my Facebook today, because I'm on the road, but I was checking it here and there, and to see PM Beers doing what she does best and stuff like that, and all of a sudden them targeting her and stuff like that. I mean, you start thinking, who's next, Manny? They're gonna come pick up the Latino next, or what? It's really scary and stuff like that. So it's just kind of amazing, So. And Michael down there in San Diego says to say hi to you, and he loves live streaming your show because it's that good and stuff like that. I also want to give you and Dee Dee an update on the 43 students in government is starting to really want to, basically start, what do you call that, martial law in Mexico, but the people are not letting it happen and stuff like that. So I basically can answer your question like you asked me the last time, that if I really believe the revolution would start this year, and it's already started little by little, and I think it's just going to completely explode and stuff like that, So, keep an eye on Mexico, especially the state of Michoacan and Guerrero, because it's going to come down to, a lot of people are going to say that they'd rather die than be taken, basically, and be slaughtered by the government and stuff like that. And it's
hey, Manny, I was going to say a big development came out because there was this Argentinian forensic expert team that came up there and pretty much contradicted the government's own assertions about whether or not these students had been burned alive or not, and said, hey, you guys are in cahoots. And Mexico's like, get the fuck out of the country. And now it's like a big diplomatic thing now.
Mm-hmm. That's correct, Davey. It really is and stuff like that, And a lot of people, basically what's happening when the concerts are calling me from up there, they're saying that nobody is safe as long as Peña Nieto is still in office. And that is basically code on code, So that's what I got for right now.
So these gangster kind of governments are starting to get thrown out one by one out of each country. And it's a good thing to see, man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, I think we're definitely dealing with a a situation where we're starting to reach critical mass, not just anywhere particular, but around the world. The other day, I was driving. I was driving down the freeway, and I see this projection on the side of the road on somebody's house, and they were projecting up so that everyone driving on the freeway could see it, and it just said the system is tyranny, and that was just the message that was projected out there, and for thousands of people to see, and I was like, we have our friends here in San Diego that do most of the projecting, the Overpass Light Brigade for San Diego. They do most of the projecting here, and I thought they were the only group that does it. And so I was like asking around, and no one knew who was doing it down there. So like people are just popping up randomly with these. You're just seeing random like shimmers of hope, I think. And then my buddy was talking to me today, and he's in college right now, and his literature professor was basically expressing some very anti-establishment views in the class, and then my buddy talked to him later on, and then he gave him one of our cards for the anti-media, and the guy says that he likes what we're doing and stuff. I mean, so like what we're seeing is that a lot of these pockets of people that were formerly maybe thought something was up, they're starting to become more vocal about it, and that's a really good sign because it shows that people aren't backing down even in the face of all this censorship, all this, police statism, and that's the next story I want to go into.
But hey, Nick, what always causes the revolution is when the intellectual class starts getting pissed off. And we're starting to see that happen. You're starting to see people that make a good living still today, but they're seeing all their friends around them lose everything, and they're starting to get angry. And as much as the elites at the very top think they can get by without anybody, they still need that top middle class of people. And those people now are starting to be like, fuck this.
Yeah, and the middle class is like growing ever smaller, man. It's probably only like 20% of the people now are like middle class. Most of the people are poor. So the next story I wanted to go on to here, and it's going to lead us into what we're going to talk about later. There was a survey among investigative journalists. 2 out of 3 investigative journalists in the U.S. believe they're being spied on by the government.
That's it?
Yeah. Among national security, foreign affairs, and federal government reporters, that number rose to over 70%. So what we're seeing here is that, these journalists pretty much are assuming they're being spied on. So you have to also assume that, it's chilling their freedom of speech, right? It's making them not say things that they would normally maybe think about saying.
Or whatever they write gets edited down to something.
Yeah, and then the other thing I think that may be encouraging about all this is that maybe they're starting to use alternative ways of communicating which aren't able to be spied on. And that's kind of the same way that Snowden was able to get all those files over to Glenn Greenwald, was through encrypted type of chat, on the dark web or whatever. I don't know that much about it, but I think that a lot of these journalists, assuming that they know that they're being spied on, if they're going to still be talking and moving sensitive information, well, then they're going to be using alternative channels. And that, to me, is the only thing that is kind of positive out of all of this. But
encryption now is going to become, the norm. And people aren't going to trust things like Gmail. They're going to move on to other sources. And that's, by and large going to be good. And eventually that'll filter down to everybody. Because when the media figures out they've been used as pawns, the top guys are already in on it. But, like Amber Lyons said, she was a 3-time Emmy winner. She was like the darling of the network. And she's like, well, then I finally figured it out when they approached me about becoming management. See, these guys are in the dark, and they're starting to wake up too. And they're realizing, crap, man, we're going to get rolled in with all these other criminals, dude, because we're basically lying.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's becoming such a meddled and such a meddled with situation here in the U.S. when it comes to our rights, and we don't know which ones are going to be safe, which ones aren't. We don't know when the government's going to get away with whatever in the hell it wants, or when one political party sees it politically advantageous to actually try to say something about an injustice. I mean, that's all we're seeing. You know, all that positioning by the Republicans and all that stuff during the time when the Republicans didn't have the Senate. A lot of it was just political theater and stuff. They were never actually challenging injustice, you know, and so that's one of the big problems, man, is that like the political system now doesn't actually go after what's really going on. They just go after whatever's politically advantageous at the time, you know?
And they stick to their guns, and they're always the worst things. They're like either the Democratic side, which is let's raise the shit out of everybody's taxes to provide for everyone, even people that don't really necessarily need help. They'll just milk the system, and that's the worst thing. And then Republicans say screw everybody if they're not working. It's like, no, we need something in the gray area. We've talked about this forever, Nick. Like, we need some kind of selective type of socialism because we're post-scarcity. Unless I'm totally mistaken, we could have automated factories making everything. So it's like, where are we at as a society? We don't provide the basics for everyone.
Exactly. Actually, it's kind of sad when I start thinking about I'm watching these shows about robots taking over people's job, and all of a sudden, these restaurants want to use drones, you know, to serve people. I mean, I don't want a drone to bring me my beer or my dinner, stuff like that. I'd rather have a pretty waitress say, hey, what's up, Manny? How you doing? Or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of bothers me, stuff like that, you know. And there's so much control going on. Like Ray Lewis said today, there was a thing that caught my eye right away, you know. Ray Lewis says resisting arrest is something that Congress throws as, you know, as a charge just for the hell of it. And it's true because, I mean, define resisting arrest. What do you call resisting arrest, excuse me? And then they want to make it a felony. I don't understand that, seriously, you know.
Well, they want to make it a felony, and they want to be able to dictate also what is a crime in New York. And I was researching it, and I found out that New York had like 24,000 pages of legalese about what's illegal. And that's dating back like 300 years, and some stuff 300 years old still on the books. But they'll come up with crap, man. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to get into this weird position where a cop will be pissed off at somebody for whatever reason and just make something up, and it's a felony now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just in the technology that just completely wants to put people, you know, out of work. It's really a sad thing for me and stuff like that. Like, you know, like Nick, for instance, you know, he goes to Hooters. I'm sure he doesn't want a drone to serve his beer. You know what I mean? Right, brother?
If I went there, I probably wouldn't want a drone serving, but I haven't been there since I was young. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, and it's also a point that was made about the NSA by one of the bureaucrats. He was saying, well, in order to prevent this stuff like Snowden from happening, we got to replace them all with robots so that we don't have to worry about any whistleblowers.
Except their own data center now is getting hacked. 300,000 hits a day they're getting hit with, to the point now where they're having to subcontract out to India to take care of all the extra IT firewall they need, man, because they're just getting destroyed. They pretty much said, hey, all the information we have on our own citizens is all going to be stored here in Utah. Come get it.
Yeah, it's like a castle, you know. Everyone knows where the castle's at, you know, and it's just a matter of who's going to find the way in first.
I'm sure they already have, Nick.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that, you know, we can't really trust the we can't think that we can, you know, if the government's going to collect all this data on everybody, can we really trust them to keep it safe? I mean, look at the Obamacare website. That thing is a piece of, you know,
well, look at Snowden.
It's a piece of shit.
Look at Snowden. How did they allow a guy like him to get where he went to? How did they not have him under wraps at all times? I mean, man, if they can't keep a human intelligence out, they're definitely not going to keep a freaking server safe.
Yeah, exactly. And then back to this whole thing with the NYPD and how they're thinking about making it a felony to resist arrest. I mean, this is like the most absolutely ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But I think it goes into this larger picture of the insecurity that the government, that the government faces.
Well, are New Yorkers going to do anything about it? Because there's a huge population of people that are extremely wealthy that'll never, ever, ever be targeted by the police, and they have the political power. And then there's this massive immigrant population that's almost kind of like been conditioned to expect this. So where's the vocal opposition going to come from? See, they're going to go in places where they know they can. Now, if they try to pull that shit in LA, it wouldn't happen. And I'd like to see them try.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point because New York is a very, very expensive place to live, and most of the people, well, not most of the people, but a lot of the people, especially the ones that vote, are wealthy individuals. So it may pass, but there also is a big activist community in Los Angeles, in New York, that I think would try to oppose this thing at every angle.
But the NYPD is what, like 18,000 strong or something, or maybe it's even more.
I think it was like 30. Yeah, 30,
it's like 30. I think LA is only like what, 10?
I'm not sure, but yeah, New York has like 30,000 cops or something like that, and
that's an army.
Insane. Yeah, it's a small army. It's the biggest gang in the world.
So even Occupy New York didn't. I mean, they were kind of outnumbered almost. So you'd almost have to have like a 1,000,000-man march up into Wall Street or something, or just occupy it all.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a big issue, and the thing to me is that, like, I don't understand why they would try to push something through like this now, because right now there's never been a time where there's been more people questioning what the hell's going on with the police, and for them to try to go up on this, and they just have it.
Statistically, it's never been safer too, right? Because I've been reading how murders have been going down, and just random muggings in Central Park are almost like unheard of these days because the presence is there. So where do they show their true colors is when they're like stopping their revenue collection, right? We're starting to see where I think somebody made a good point, like firemen and ambulances are, at home at the base until they're called. Why are cops on patrol?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think the cops should, for the most part, just be at the station and then reply to calls if people try to call in. You know what I mean? So that's basically, the, to me, the extent that the cops should be doing. Yeah, should there be specialized units and stuff at certain times to handle certain things? Yeah, but at this current situation, man, you got to think about how all of these cops, almost every cop in the country is unionized, man. So these guys aren't going to go down without a fight. They're not going to do, they're not. It's going to be really hard to change these guys because they definitely act in a collective bargaining type of way.
And when will they become privatized like their SWAT has become? I mean, when are they going to decide that to become immune from lawsuits, at least on the level that they're at right now, that they're going to privatize themselves? And who's going to okay that? Are citizens going to be okay with that, or are they just going to not fund it? I mean, I don't understand what they think it's going to lead to.
Yeah, I saw an article about the cops that have degrees from a university. Their mentality is completely different as far as trying to shoot somebody down, than a cop that doesn't have a degree and stuff like that, And then I saw another article, or another story, I should say, about something that I said it was going to happen, of course it's going to happen, where people want to have a car that drives itself and they can be in the back, and all of a sudden they find out that it's already been, people can already hack into those cars and stuff like that. That's crazy,
Yeah, you can kidnap somebody by remote now. I mean, they're starting to already get insurance for that. I was reading Lloyd's of London was going to start carrying that kind of stuff because they're afraid diplomats are going to get into a limo and somebody's going to take the driver out with like a sniper shot and then just, pilot them to a warehouse somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's automated cars and stuff. It all goes back to all this the dangers of drones, but also the potential, man. I mean, how cool would it be to have a car where if I needed to be in San Francisco in the morning, I can go hop in it like right now, and I can just be like, all right, take me to San Francisco, and then when I get there, an alarm will go off, wake me up, and I can take the car wherever I need to go, and then. It'd be convenient, but at the same time, like you said, of course, with any technology, it can always be used against humanity or against people, and it's like that old lesson that Einstein basically taught us, where he basically was saying that his research with building the atomics and the bomb and stuff, like he basically thought he was going to be using it for good intentions and stuff. He didn't realize it was going to be used to kill hundreds of thousands of people.
Because he knew the thorium reactors of the time were the computers weren't up to it at that time, but they had in their mind these thorium reactors that would make like this tiny microscopic amount of waste, and it would make fuel, and they could bury it underground, and it's totally safe. But no, they didn't want to do that because it was too expensive, I guess.
Well, I heard there was actually a thorium reactor going up and going online in India. I think in 2016 they expected to go operational.
Oh well, good for them. About what, 75 years later?
Yeah, and so with any technology, it can be used for good or bad, and so we have to very very much in a way keep an eye out on the dangers of it, because some of the most tech savvy people I know, like some Bitcoin entrepreneurs, are some of the most like people opposed to like certain drone technology and stuff. And like Elon Musk, I mean, he's a total tech entrepreneur, billionaire, and he's very concerned about AI. And same with Stephen Hawking. These are scientific people.
Musk invested in a company that had an AI bent for some predator type drone action because he wanted to keep them from making their own decisions.
Activist investing, basically,
yeah.
What he was doing.
I don't know if you read about that, but when somebody asked him why, he's like, "What do you mean why?" He's like, I honestly don't know why every other billionaire is not investing in this, because once robots come out that make their own decisions and they're unleashed, what do you think they'll do to people that are unethical that run this world?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. I mean, you never know what could happen.
Pure logic dictates that the top of the pyramid gets decapitated. So bringing out AI into the world is actually to their detriment.
So back to this journalism poll, because I kind of want to go into this a little more. These journalists that that participated in this poll, they actually admitted that yes, the spying is already affecting our reporting. They're already self-censoring to a certain degree. And of course, like the people that I deal with, we talk on Facebook casually, but if we actually want to say stuff, we have to go off that system, and you can't go through the normal avenues, because now we've just got to a point where the government just can't be trusted. You know what I mean? And sorry, it really shows to me in this poll that people that are in these sensitive professions, they already know what is going on. And if you ask these people, the poll didn't ask them, but if they asked them, hey, do you think the spying should end? Well, I'm sure the same amount of people that believe they're being spied on would also be like, yeah, I think the spying should end, because I don't think I should be getting spied on. I'm not doing anything wrong, and you guys are spying on me because you don't want me to make you look bad.
And I heard you can use the Freedom of Information Act and attach your Social Security to get your own file, Nick.
Yeah, your FBI file. I heard about that too.
It takes what? It takes like 3 months or something, but you get it.
Yeah, that's how that guy from antiwar.com found out that he was on one of those watch lists and stuff. Just because he was an anti-war writer. And they were spying on him and all that stuff. And so, yeah, a lot of these journalists, and remember, I forget who it was. That lady, pretty recent. She was reporting on some stuff, and she found out that she was being spied on. And she worked at one of those corporate media outlets, and then she left after all that stuff went down. Oh, she was reporting on Benghazi. That's what it was. She was reporting on Benghazi, and they found out. So, of course, this actually came out in the media because Fox News was able to say, hey, Benghazi. But what happened was she was actually gathering up some real facts on Benghazi and what happened, and then they started spying on her. And she realized what was going on, and she had a tech person figure out what's happening.
What was that consensus? Because I've always heard it be shifting from, it was, an inside job, to now, well, they were running guns and everything and trying to push things into Syria. So that's what I've always heard, and I heard that the actual consulate director or whatever kind of found that out, so they kind of left him hung out to dry.
Yeah, that's basically probably what happened. I mean, there was CIA operations going on in there to arm Syrian rebels to overthrow Assad. and they were like funneling a lot of the weapons through Libya, taking the weapons from Libya, sending them over to Syria and stuff like that. And so that's why there's been this big cover up about Benghazi, and of course Fox News doesn't ever talk about that stuff. But yeah, that's more or less what happened. They were funneling weapons, so they had to cover up a few things. That the guy that was the ambassador started asking questions. So yeah, maybe they didn't want to rescue the guy, when it went down. So I don't know.
It just shows that if they'll sell him out, they'll sell anyone out, and I think that's kind of where this breakdown began, where people on the inside started to realize no matter how valuable they were expendable. There was only like an untouchable, maybe like a couple thousand people, but the government's so huge. And I think that's what's starting to happen, man. I mean, we're starting to see splinters in the media where they're starting to kind of start to tell the truth slowly and through different channels, because I think there are certain people that are like, wow, the game is up, and I'm probably not on the winning side here.
Yeah, people are starting to get worried, man. A lot of these big media outlets are starting to get worried because they may not be, they may be one of the subsidiary puppets of the game that these guys are running, but they're not part of that inner circle, and they know when anything goes down, they're left out to dry. So, like, that's why I see. I don't know if you've noticed, but the Rolling Stone, man, has been actually getting pretty anti-establishment.
Yep.
With their reporting, the Boston Globe as well, and these guys are starting to report on some establishment undermining topics. And
who owns them? We got to figure that out. We know 90% of all American media are owned by 6 parent companies. The other 10% are really, they're very actually influential, and they're swallowing up a lot of the dissension. Me and you consume a lot of that media ourselves. So, RT is huge. We have Press TV. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of side projects going on, and they're becoming more important.
Yeah, and like there's like sources like the Huffington Post, which is like, they post some stuff that's pretty controversial and stuff, and they'll challenge some things. But when you look back at their family tree, their corporate family tree, I mean, it's like owned by AOL, and AOL's like a subsidiary of Time Warner and all that stuff.
So it's one of the paradigms. So it doesn't really, you can't count it into it, but there's a lot of things going on that are there's some headway going on against what's going, like the mainstream's pushing out there. There's definitely like, how they said it was 3% of America that fought back during the Revolutionary War? It's at least 20-30% of people right now are waking up. That's what it seems.
Yeah, man. I like I was saying earlier, it seems like we're reaching the critical mass point where people are starting to speak out, and like there's something as simple as a guy projecting a message off the side of the freeway, and me being a San Diego activist, I would have definitely known about one of my friends doing that. And it being just someone that's not even part of our movement that we're doing here in San Diego to do it on their own. I mean, it's like, okay, this is starting to happen. You know what I mean? And as Manny was mentioning earlier, Mexico, man, we've been saying this for a while. We've been asking this question: when is the revolution going to come in Mexico? Because they're overdue already. They're like, what, 8 years overdue or something? They've been having a revolution once every 100 years, and they're a little bit late this time. So,
well, the cartels are scary as hell, man. But when you have no other choice, really, when you're like, I can't go to the cops because the cartel's paying them off, and I'm finding out that they're both working together to kill regular people just because they're getting in the way of shit. Well, then there's a lot of regular people. And like, man, if me and you have to fight, there's a whole hell of a lot of us regular people that are just going to have to fight. So then they don't want to push it to that level here. There's so many of us. They didn't want to do it in Mexico either, but they screwed up. That's their bad, and now they're going to deal with it.
Yeah, there's a story right now that's kind of kicking off people in Tijuana down there your way, Nick. And it's about the Border Patrol trying to use those drones to monitor the border. And there's even military people I've talked to that say, hey, it better not come across and try to spy on us on this side because we can knock it down from this side. We don't have to go to the other side and knock it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. is definitely starting to see the writing on the wall for Mexico. and that's one of the reasons they're trying to put up more military drones. So keep in mind, there was this big announcement. Oh, they're going to start using drones on the border. The small detail that should be noted is that the key piece of information there was military drone. Right now, they already have Homeland Security drones flying over the border. At this moment, there's probably 3 of them in San Diego County at some point over the border. Okay. The key thing that they're saying is military drone, which means that they may start throwing Hellfire missiles on these drones that are flying over the border. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we start realizing, okay, well, maybe they're positioning themselves because they understand that Mexico is about to go through a big upheaval. And some things are going to be pretty unfriendly because I'll tell you what, a lot of the people down there are privy to the fact that the U.S. is a huge part of the drug war and a huge part of the cause of all the violence. The people, and Manny can vouch for me on this, at the protests, they're calling for the U.S. to stop funding the government of Mexico because they send them, $3 billion a year in funds, either through military aid to fight the drug war or whatever. All of these funds are conditional on the fact that the Mexican government upholds the drug war. And a lot of the people are aware of that, and they're saying, hey, America, stop sending money to our corrupt government that's killing people all the time. So I think the U.S. may be seeing what's going on down there and saying, oh, shit, we got to really start preparing because people are going to be really mad at us once the revolution goes down in Mexico. They're going to start realizing, oh, well, the U.S. was behind a lot of these problems because once they do a revolution, get a hold of all those files, all the documentation, there's going to be people that are going to be pretty angry down there. So, what is it that we can learn from Mexico? The situation going on. They're so close to a revolution, and so many people here in the U.S. think that it's time for a revolution. I personally don't think it is because I don't think our ideas are advanced enough or mature enough yet. But I'm not saying that it can't be sometime soon. But I think what we should be doing is definitely looking at Mexico and trying to learn some lessons from what's going on down there.
Well, you know what the Mexican people tell me to tell people in the United States all the time? Don't do what we did, where basically we gave up our arms and now we don't have weapons. We can't have weapons. Only the government can have weapons, So even if you don't believe in carrying your gun yourself, like I don't, I prefer not to, but I want to have that right to, if I ever change my mind, that I can, because Mexico, people cannot own weapons out here and stuff like that. So the message to us down here, they said, don't give up your weapons because if the military takes control completely, then you're going to be like us. Basically, that's the message.
At least get a shotgun, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, you're right, DB. You're right, actually.
Even everybody should have that. Even if you're totally anti-gun, a cop cannot get there within 8 minutes, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. One of the things I will tell you that has really fired up the revolution more and stuff like that, and you guys ain't gonna be shocked. I'm sure you're not. Women are taking the lead like I've never seen it. I've seen them take the lead before, but not to the extreme that they are now. Arm themselves and in the front, line and the whole thing. You know what I'm talking about,
I think that's a huge deal, man, and it's something that we need to encourage because I've been thinking lately about the whole oppression thing, and every culture around the world oppresses certain people certain ways. But if you think about it, around the world, almost every culture is pretty oppressive towards women, man. And so that is one issue that I think I want to start definitely addressing more at the anti-media is the oppression of women all around the world, here in the U.S., down in Mexico. But it's great to hear that women are taking a prominent role in the revolution because that's what should be happening. They should be taking the lead because they've been oppressed for so long and taken for granted and all that stuff that it's time for that to change. And women are probably the single largest group of people in the entire world that are the victim of oppression.
And they could end all wars real quick, Nick, by just refusing to have sex with soldiers until there's no war.
That's what they've been saying, yeah.
So we do have another caller that just joined us from the 814 area code. How's it going? You're on the anti-media. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, not much, man. We talked before and stuff. I think you remember me. I'm on the TV show or whatever. We have to do all the scripts and shit.
Cool, man. Well, welcome to the show. Feel free to chime in if anything that you hear catches your interest or whatever. I'm gonna keep going on some of this news. I don't know. Patty may have ended up being tied up or isn't able to call in. Hopefully
She's been detained.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully nothing has happened. But she's hasn't called in yet. But if she does, awesome. If not, make sure you guys tune in Wednesday. If she doesn't call in tonight, we'll definitely have her on Wednesday. And I'm gonna go on to this. This story about Brian Williams, and it's just right here in our wheelhouse. You know, we're the anti-media. We talk about how messed up the media is and how they manipulate and all the horrible things that the media does. So this whole Brian Williams thing is kind of right here in our neck of the woods. But, you know, there's this great article we featured on the anti-media. It's from commondreams.org. But it basically talks about how, you know, Brian Williams lying about almost getting, you know, blown up in a helicopter. That's one thing. And yes, that's horrible that he's lying about that. And think about it. He was doing it back during the days of when this war was first starting. And it played into the overall role of promoting the war and making people, you know, be patriotic and not question what's going on. And, oh my God, Brian Williams almost got blown up in a helicopter. We really got to go bomb those assholes now. You know what I mean? And this is the kind of ideas that this guy was placing in people's minds. And so NBC is trying to sit here and backtrack and like, oh, we're going to investigate these lies and make sure that it, you know. But it's
They're
like
investigating themselves.
It's funny. It's like I don't doubt that NBC was probably telling this guy to say this kind of shit because they wanted to, you know, because they're so deeply in bed with the military-industrial complex that they're obligated to sell these wars. These guys are the number one salesman of all of these wars. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into. And that's what this article from Common Dreams talks about. It's on the anti-media. We posted on the 7th of February, 2 days ago. But basically the point that it makes is like, okay, a lie about a helicopter, okay. But the overall lie that we were sold about weapons of mass destruction and Saddam Hussein, Al-Qaeda, all this bullshit that was never questioned once by the U.S. corporate media. This is the bigger topic that should be being talked about. The fact that these guys are lying to get us into all these wars like over and over and over and over again. It's like these are the lies that need to be talked about, not some little bullshit white lie. Oh, sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how dare you make such an accurate point, Nick?
That was actually really funny.
But you know, I mean, it's kind of a redundant thing because this is what the media always does. You know, they make a huge deal out of a very divisive topic or something that's like very superficial. You know, so they don't really make much about the whole lie that sold us into the war, but they do make a big deal out of this one little story. And then it started shifting over to now, oh, he's lied about Katrina and he lied about seeing a dead body and all this crap. And it's the same thing that we saw in the whole Chris Kyle story and how he kept on making stuff up about all this other stuff. It's to me a pattern that we're starting to see is that, man, these guys are just walking around telling all these stories and legally they can get away with it. And when the few times that they actually get caught, then they may have to just deal with it on a reputational level or at a basic, you know, at a job security level. There's no legal ramifications. These guys can't get in trouble for sitting there and bullshitting us to our faces. They can do that whenever the hell they want. And as long as they don't get caught, then it's fine. I mean, this guy was able to perpetuate this bullshit story for years. I mean, what was it, 12 years? He sat there and lied to America for 12 years, and then a veteran that was actually there finally caught him up and was tired of hearing his bullshit story. You know, and this is the sad state of affairs that we've gotten into. But thanks to the internet, think about it. If it weren't for the internet, this guy would have never gotten caught with his bullshit. Because if someone sent a letter saying, oh, editor of my local newspaper, Brian Williams, lying about his story, that's not ever going to get run. But thankfully for Facebook, this guy was able to comment and say, hey, dude, bullshit, you're lying. It changes the whole game, and that's what I think is very encouraging. And that's why what we talked about earlier about internet freedom and self-censorship, chilling of speech and all that stuff, that's such a big topic to go into because what if this veteran was so scared that he wouldn't call him out because he figured there'd be retribution? You know, and that's the direction that we're going. People are fearing retribution. If you're a journalist in America, you're assuming that you're being spied on. So that's why we have to be so, for one, thankful for the internet, but so wary of preserving it. And, you know, the other hot topic that's going on is this whole thing with the FCC and how they're going to protect net neutrality and all that stuff. And I think net neutrality is an idea that is up for debate. But the thing that I don't like is the FCC taking over all the regulatory aspects of the internet, man. We know the FCC is part of the government, and what does the government do? It messes things up, and it runs inefficiently, and it does.
Well, they're trying to categorize it as a utility, dude, so they can regulate it in that manner, and they can regulate the amount of data and the megabyte usage and stuff like that, man, and cap and trade and all that crap. It's just about the money. That's all it is, and we got to stop it. It's got to be completely open and free. I don't even know if we can categorize it as anything like a utility or even a consumer product. Maybe it needs to be written into, I don't know, maybe we should put it in the Bill of Rights in some weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. And you know it kind of ties back into this I don't know, this whole thing with the media too, because the internet obviously is the new frontier with media. I like to think that the internet is more powerful, of course, than the mainstream TV news and stuff like that.
It is, Nick, because the kids don't even watch TV anymore.
Yeah, of course. So it really does make sense that the government wants to go in and start really regulating things and really starting to control everything because they want to also control the narrative. And so that's why I'm kind of wary of that. But this whole thing with Brian Williams, it really is just scratching the surface when it comes to the lies and all the bullshit that were sold from the media. And we all know that every media outlet that is on TV is trying to sell us wars like all the time. And they're trying to basically do whatever it is the people that own the stocks tell them to do. You know, and they can tell them to support a certain product or to not say anything bad about a certain thing, or they can tell them to say a lot of bad things about a certain thing or a certain person or a certain group of people. And that's more or less where I'm really concerned about the media. It's not so much about these little bullshit lies about being, you know, shot at in a helicopter. Who cares, really? It's the bigger lies. It's the bigger picture that is really scary. And sadly to say, I mean, I love the fact that everybody is like hopping on this whole, you know, screw Brian Williams bandwagon, but not enough people are actually questioning the very essence of what is actually going on and the fact that the media at large is able to get away with
screw all corporate media.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I agree with you. So what we're going to do, since I don't think Patty's going to be able to call in, we're going to go a little bit into her story and what's going on with that, as far as what I know. And because it really ties in with what we're talking about right now as well.
Yeah.
Because Patty... Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to mention when we're talking about American Sniper, and, you know, this guy called them out, it kind of reminded me of the same thing about the Navy SEALs, about Jesse Ventura, you know?
And, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, Manny, because last night here in the Twin Cities, I saw Taya Kyle speak, and I'm going to have an article coming up pretty soon here, Nick, for the website. But, yeah, pretty much basically how, you know, Jesse Ventura said they never met at all, and that Chris Kyle had made it up. And I guess the jury felt that there was enough evidence that they had to award him 1.8 million, which she's going to end up having to pay because she's the estate of him and that book and the movie rights. So it's just kind of crazy, man, how there's this guy that's very polarizing, and he's also very bipolar. I mean, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad about him. And I'm going to be exploring that in the article I write. But it's funny you mentioned that, man, because that's kind of like this spearhead of propaganda coming at us right now, again, against the Arab world. And why?
Well, it's resources, right? More and more sources that they need.
It's so much going on, Nick. Like, basically, I think what's going on is that, this fracking movement going on is about to end because we had a lot less than we thought we did. And because Saudi Arabia pretty much has all the oil, we're just going to kind of turn on them and divvy up their oil and kind of carve it up between us, Turkey, Iran, and Russia. And I don't know what that's going to do, to be honest with you. I have no idea what's going to happen, but we're going to delve into the subject, I guess, a little bit next show.
Yeah, I definitely want to go into Ukraine and Syria, what's going on over there with Putin, Russia.
50,000 dead, Nick. It's 50,000 now in Ukraine dead.
Yeah, to add that up to the 200,000 that are dead in Syria, and these are two conflicts that the U.S. has thrown money behind and technology, information, and weapons. So I think I don't know. I think that we're definitely going to go into this Wednesday. So Wednesday, what we're going to do is we're going to have Patty on, PM Beers from Occupy LA, live streamer. She also works with us here at the Anti-Media. She's facing 6 months in jail. One of the other people that were arrested along with her just got sentenced to a year. So this is not a joke. This isn't maybe she might get in trouble. This is unless something big happens, she's going to get thrown in jail.
Can we put her? Can we put the website out with the GoFundMe or whatever it was?
Yeah, actually, we put it up there on the Anti-Media today. If you guys go to the site, the title of the article: "Anti-Media Journalist Facing Up to 6 Months in Prison for Filming Police," and the crowdfunding account is embedded in the article, so you can find it there. She's raised almost $500 so far for legal defense, but she needs to raise a lot more, obviously, because lawyers aren't cheap. So we're also matching all the funds. Anything that's been donated as of today for the rest of the week, we're going to match it from the Anti-Media to help get her out of the situation, because we don't want to see a journalist that was just documenting a brutality against police violence. We don't want to see her being thrown into a cage for victims.
And she's the true definition of a journalist, because she's pretty much doing this without a guaranteed paycheck. She's not on the corporate docket or the salary kick, you know what I mean? And people were saying, whatever, you guys aren't accredited media. And I'm like, but you don't understand that these are media personalities, whereas these are journalists. These are the old school journalists, the people that actually went against the grain. You've just been indoctrinated to think that if it doesn't have a corporate stamp on it, it's not legitimate, and that's where you're brainwashed.
Yeah, and then, to me, this whole arrest, it goes along with this broader subject matter that we were talking about a few minutes ago, about this war on cyber information and this whole chilling effect. I mean, to see an internet journalist like Patty be arrested for live streaming at a protest, it just goes to tell you, look, this war is real. It's happening. They are trying to clamp down on the information. They don't like us questioning what they have going on. They got a sweet deal going, and they don't want nobody messing it up. I mean, it makes sense that they want to stop it. What doesn't make sense is the way that they're going about it. Rather than evolving themselves and making a better system, and, we realize that people are unsatisfied with the way the government's going, let's go ahead and, answer their calls for reform and actually reform stuff. No, that's not what they're doing. They're trying to bully us into just accepting it. And that's why it reeks of fascism, man. And that's what's so scary about all this stuff. And that's why, to me, we have this very time sensitive situation on our hands, not only with the whole drone and the whole AI situation. Combine that with fascism, and you got like a techno-fascist society, and that's something that is going to be very, very detrimental to the working class. And the working class, to me, is basically 90% of the population. I mentioned it earlier. The middle class is becoming almost non-existent. It's down below 20% now. And,
They're saying it's $10,000 a month, Nick. That's middle class now.
yeah, and how many people do you know that could actually make that?
Nick, what you were saying, Nick, you also just want to remind you that's why the 43 are gone, because basically they were going against the status code, yeah?
Exactly, man. And you know, maybe here they're not disappearing 43 students and just killing them. But what they do is what they do is they disappear 43,000 of these kids and throw them in these prisons and throw them in jail for victimless crimes and stuff like that. And Patty obviously is one of these people that is facing a very, very possible jail sentence for a victimless crime. She was literally arrested for standing in a place videotaping, and she may go to jail for 6 months for that. You know, it's really already happening. The people are already being disappeared, thrown into the prison industrial system. And
what do you think we can do to bring it out, like to get a lot of people to know about it?
Well, you know, that's the thing, is that we just got to keep on networking, I think, and becoming more effective. And I don't know if you were listening to the beginning of the show, but there's been some pretty positive signs that we're reaching a point where it's almost a critical mass. And I think we're only a few years away from the point where there's going to be enough people that there will be some kind of ability to have rapid positive change, you know. And this whole idea that was sold to us with Obama and stuff, that was like a huge appeasement, because you know, obviously Obama basically just carried out the same policies as Bush did, but they did sell us, you know, he was sold to us as some kind of reformer, some kind of freedom fighter, an activist type of president. Unfortunately, you know, the people, the demand was there, right? The people wanted it, but then when he came in, we realized, oh, it was just a phony, it was just an act. He's
a corporate activist, Nick. Come on.
Yeah, true. George Soros, enough said.
You know, the fact is, to me, is that Obama was what the people wanted to hear, and it still is. People still want change. They still want hope. And they've started to realize, even a lot of my progressive friends have realized, okay, well, maybe the answer isn't exactly by voting for these politicians, because we saw what happened with Obama. Everyone thought he was going to be great, and we voted for him, and now he's just been an absolute nightmare. So I think people are starting to realize, okay, maybe that isn't the way of going about changing everything. And of course, right now it isn't, because there's not enough people that are able to actually vote and actually change anything, because most of the people that vote are completely brainwashed by the corporate media and by all these political parties. But eventually, as the actual feeling of the public opinion changes, just like it has done with marijuana, cannabis, and how all these states are now legalizing even for recreational purposes.
Don't you like it how all the ex-presidents have admitted to smoking pot now? Like that's the new yes, we've done it, we're human.
Yeah, Jeb. It just came out today that Jeb has admitted to smoking weed. We featured that on the anti-media as well. Jeb Bush.
Yeah, and George.
But they forgot the cocaine and the S&M though.
Yeah.
You know, so I think people are starting to realize, okay, well, especially after Obama, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, as far as when it comes to the people that were kind of in the independent type of thinking, people that weren't really Democrats or Republicans, but they still voted for Obama because they did want hope and change and all that stuff. A lot of those people, I think, have realized, okay, well, voting itself is definitely not the answer. Maybe in the future, if the system is reformed and it's more actually representative of the public opinion, then yeah, maybe at that point voting would be something that is pretty effective. But at this point in time, voting is really not effective because everyone that votes is so brainwashed. Not everyone, but for the most part, the people that vote are so brainwashed that going in and voting and hoping that it's going to change something, it's kind of just like a pipe dream. So I think the people that voted for Obama back then are starting to realize, okay, that's not the way to go. Let's try to fix it at the local level, at the community level.